Welcome back to the Miami Reporters Roundtable. I'm your host, Peter Zalewski from Condo Vultures. For our first story, we're going to go to Jean Gruss. Jean, this is a piece that comes out of the Insider. I'm going to read you the headline. I'll read you the first couple graphs, and I'll ask you to sort of opine on it. Here's the headline. Inflation is about to drop hard as rents and housing prices tank. Billionaire investor Barry Sternlicht said. Here are three key points for the article. Point number one, inflation will drop off thanks to falling rents and housing prices. Barry Sternlicht said. Point number two, the billionaire investor pointed falling rents, which will show up in inflation data later this year. Point number three, he warned high interest rates could over-tighten the economy into a severe recession. Now, Jean, before I ask you to comment, let me lay out some details about Barry Sternlicht. Barry Sternlicht made a name in South Florida. He's a gentleman who made his name up in New York with Starwood, the hotelier. They own real estate, did a variety of different things. Back during the Great Recession, there was a bank that did a lot of condo construction financing. It was a bank out of Chicago. They went nationwide. They went into volatile markets like South Florida. And ultimately, the Fed shut them down. And Barry and his group, ST Residential, was successful in competing with a number of big funds around the country, including the related group down here in South Florida. Barry bought a $4.5 billion loan portfolio, more than 100 condo towers scattered around the country, but primarily South Florida. He was able to successfully take over these loans, in some cases take over the property, sell off the units and make a bundle. Barry has now decided to go into condo development. He announced last year he's putting up a tower in Miami Beach. And lo and behold, now he's coming out and saying we're going to have a hard landing and housing prices are coming down. So Mr. Gruss, why don't you give us some perspective about the significance, A, of what Barry's saying, and B, whether or not it might bite him in the ass when he goes from distress and he starts to move into, the rah-rah venture days of building condo towers.
Well, first of all, a lot of very smart people have been wrong on inflation, including the Federal Reserve, which has a huge staff of economists on its payroll. So, anyone who says that inflation is going up or down, I think, you have to sort of take that with a grain of salt because no one really knows. Look at what just happened with OPEC. They cut oil production and oil prices surged like 10% in a matter of days just over the weekend. Stuff like that, you can't predict and you don't know where inflation is going to go. So I do take that with a grain of salt. The other thing too is, I don't know about you, but I'm not paying anything. I'm not paying lower prices for anything these days. In fact, I was just looking at the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the inflation rate for Miami, the latest number was 9.9%. It was actually the highest in the nation over a 12-month period.
Well,
So, so we're definitely in the hot inflation zone here. And then the third thing is, whenever anyone talks about inflation or makes economic forecasts, or you really have to consider the source. So, Barry Sternlicht, obviously, real estate, heavily involved in real estate. It's to his advantage that that interest rates fall. This is the lifeblood of real estate, and financing is the key to successful real estate deals. And it's in his interest that interest rates fall, so he can do more deals in Miami. So I really would take it with a grain of salt. I think inflation's seriously embedded in the economy, in wages now, in services, in food and cars, used cars. It's everywhere. So really, it's going to take some serious tightening by the Fed to get inflation under control. And I don't know whether Barry Sternlicht is right or not, but so far we haven't seen a very a big move towards deflation. So I think people need to take those things into account.
Interesting. I would say it would be very interesting, though, if the market were to do like Barry's predicting, and lo and behold, he gets out of his lane, which is distress. He gets into building new construction, and all of a sudden it goes sideways on him, and somebody circles back around and takes his property. That would be fun to watch. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Sean.
Well, it's curious to me why he got into development at the peak of the market. I believe, or a lot of people believe, that we're closer to the end of the cycle than we are at the beginning of a cycle. And it seems to me that anyone who begins a project now or in the last 12 months is really taking a big gamble because the cycle is really coming. I think we're coming to the end of a cycle. So, I mean, who knows?